Anybody that listens to this podcast or has ever listened to this podcast knows how I feel about revenge games. They are my favorite thing in the entire world. I get really. There's not much. I mean, it takes a lot for me to get really disappointed in myself. But when somebody points out, like Sully's like, "Oh, it's a J.K. Dobbins revenge game," I'm like, "How did I miss that? I've drafted J.K. Dobbins in best ball 5 billion times. It's a J.K. Dobbins revenge game. I missed it. Makes me mad." However, we still have two more games in my top five. One of them is not Kirk Cousins, although I have Kirk Cousins in multiple revenge games. The number two revenge game, and I'm curious what you guys think about this that I have. And if not for the fact that Chiefs and 49ers is a Super Bowl rematch, which it's hard to get bigger than the Super Bowl revenge, especially when there's like Super Bowl overtime revenge and you've lost to that team in the Super Bowl twice in the last 5 years. Number two for me, and this is so easy, is the Steelers at the Broncos, week 2, 4:25 p.m. on CBS. I better see Nance, Romo, and Wolfson on that call because this is Russell Wilson against the team that's paying him $85 million to not play for him, Sully, and maybe the most vengeful coach we've seen in the last 20 years in Sean Payton.
Yeah, and I think this is hilarious for two different reasons because one, you're going to talk about it as a straight football game. You know, it's going to be Sean Payton trying to take down Russell Wilson. There's also a world where this happens and Russell Wilson's on the bench. And we're getting these sad looks of Russell Wilson in the big hood, big coat or whatever he's going to be wearing on the sideline. And Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that almost would be further proving Sean Payton right to say, hey, listen, this is not our guy. We need to get rid of him. We could talk about Bo Nix and all of that type of stuff of whether or not he is their future, their franchise. But certainly Russell Wilson wasn't it. And if all of a sudden he's on the bench for this game or cut, that is hilarious.
Yeah, I think the NFL was actually thinking here, let's put him in week 2 just in case Russell Wilson gets benched, because you look at Justin Fields has actually been in this exact situation in 2021. The Bears signed Andy Dalton to, in the Russell Wilson role. The Bears were playing the Bengals in week 2. And it was like, well, what if Justin Fields is a starter by then? Then it loses some spice. Well, guess what? That was Andy Dalton's last start. And then it was all over, then Justin Fields takes over. So I do think that this game was early that, Mike Tomlin sees this on the schedule. I'm sure Mike Tomlin knows how Russell Wilson feels about facing Sean Payton, facing the Broncos. And all we're going to hear about all week is that, these guys get their weekly paychecks. Russell Wilson's going to make like $80,000 from the Steelers for this game. And he's going to make like $3 million from the Broncos. It's going to be some preposterous number that the Broncos are paying him for one game. So, yeah, I think that Wilson will absolutely be starting, and it's a great pick as high up on your list, Brenton.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, too. I think about the type of coach that Sean Payton is and all the times that he would play the Atlanta Falcons and how aggressively he would pursue him. There's a shot. There's a gif out there of him mouthing "choke" and like grabbing his throat and just like screaming at. I think it was Devonta Freeman, maybe. No, yeah, it was Devonta Freeman, not Devonta Foreman. Sorry. Like screaming at him because he fumbled the ball late in the game, like middle of the season divisional rivalry. Sean Payton takes this stuff personally. I think he would love nothing more than, and here's the real, like just revenge possibility. There we go. There's Sean Payton screaming "choke." It's like 17-10, 12 to go. What are you doing down there? I think it was actually a Thanksgiving game because it's NBC and NFL Network. Anywho, what if Sean Payton and this defense, this Broncos defense, got after Russell Wilson so bad that he gets benched middle of the game for Justin Fields? Like, can you imagine? And Sean Payton's just over there just like dancing. And then the Bo Nix factor is real too. If Bo Nix outplays Russell Wilson in this week 2 game as a rookie, taking 12th overall, even with all these starts, if he looks better than Russell Wilson, Sean Payton is vindicated for that pick for a pretty hot stretch just based on that week 2 game.
The one thing I'll say about that is that, look, there's a reason Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record. The man plays 4D chess. If he has to go in there and let Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren run the ball 40 times, Russell Wilson throws it 15 times, and it doesn't matter. It's outperformed because Tom will be like, that was just the game plan. The standard's the standard. And then the Steelers win, say, 24-17. You can't really, you can't hate on Wilson. Wilson won't get made fun of as long as the Steelers win, and it doesn't matter what his numbers are. So I just think they'll go in there with some game plan where Russell Wilson cannot look bad, and Tom will be like, we have a more talented team. We should.
Right.
We're going to keep it simple.
You're right, because there's a world where Bo Nix is the starter, and what is he supposed to do? Succeed against TJ Watt and Patrick Queen and that entire defense? That is a tall task to do, independent of Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. So there is a world where Russell Wilson's not doing too much, but Sean Payton's still salty on the sidelines because his team's down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of, and these guys went back and forth at each other all offseason, passive aggressively. There's going to be a lead up the week of it. I mean, Sean Payton ain't afraid to throw a bar. Right? It should be fun. So the other one that made my top 5, and this is honestly because, one, we have history of this player having a revenge game. Stephon Diggs, I believe, went off he went off. They actually lost the game against the Vikings in this crazy game where Josh Allen fumbled at the 1, and then it was a wild game. But he had 12 catches for 128 yards in that 3-point loss. And to me, there is nothing better than the wide receiver revenge game. Now, the 2 other honorable mentions I had on the list were Aaron Jones at the Packers in week 4, and then Saquon at the Giants in week 7. I try not to put divisional matchups in here because I think it requires a certain type of detest. You hate the team anyway. So it requires a certain spurning, Favre against the Packers, et cetera. Now, I think both of those qualify as an honorable mention, but Diggs has burned an old team before, and there's definitely beef with the Bills here. I think the Texans and the Bills, week 9, 1 p.m., CBS, Bills at Texans, technically. I like the Stephon Diggs revenge game. Would have slotted it higher, just happened to really like some of the other items at 1 through 3.
He will 100% be the highest owned player in DFS.
He
will 100% have a receiving yards ladder bet on him. We're going to get the FanDuel and the DraftKings tweets of Stephon Diggs, 100+ receiving yards, has 80% of the handle and 80% of the money. We're going to get all of that stuff because we all know that he is going to go off in this game. Just no matter what, if his team is winning or losing, he is saying, give me the football. I am trying to go off and absolutely spurn this team. And it's very similar to what you were saying with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. Stephon Diggs has thrown so much shade at Josh Allen in the Bills organization over the last 2 years. This was a long time coming. It's something that we talked about this offseason where it didn't feel like they fully cushioned the blow of losing Stephon Diggs in their offense. Obviously got Keon Coleman at the draft, but it felt like they could do more with something that was such a looming departure over the last couple of years. And for it to come to a head, I think that Diggs is going to circle this one on the calendar.
Yeah, one thing that's weird about this game is I was surprised it did not get put in prime time. It's Josh Allen versus CJ Stroud. You obviously have this huge revenge factor, and both these teams were kind of prime time popular. And there you have is just sitting at 1 p.m. on a random Sunday, and it didn't make the cut. So I did think that it was a little odd that they didn't think this game was big enough to be put in a spot like that. But instead, it is week 5, and we will happily take it on CBS. Thank you, NFL schedule makers.
Is it week 5 or week 9? Did I read? I was flying to find the schedules.
Week 5, definitely.
Week 5, it's week 5.
CBS.
Yep, definitely got to fit. I knew it was. I just read that wrong. Nice shot. Oh, you know what? You know what the problem is? I should have gone to the Bills and double checked it. I went to the Texans website. They don't have the list of the games scheduled. They have it tiered out with no mention of what week it is. Oh, it must have gone. Oh, it probably went. Oh, that's why I was reading left to right instead of.
Some of these teams are doing it really weird. It's
and it was a link to click on tickets and stuff. Just to try and clarify this, we have, I don't know what the logic here is because the 4:00 games that week are There's 2 on Fox, Raiders at Broncos and Cardinals at Niners. Then we have Packers at Rams. I guess is that the Nance game? And then Giants at Seahawks. That's weird. I would think that would be a game they'd want to.
It's weird that it's at 1.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't toss it at 425. It's sort of the game of the week. But I mean, Packers at Rams, you could argue is coin toss on which game is better. Hopefully that's a national CBS day and we get back-to-back bangers in terms of those games. But shame on the Texans for the way that they set up their schedule. That is terrible. Any teams that do that, you're bad, very bad. Okay. Any other anything strike your fancy? Here, the rest of them. 6, Raiders at Saints, Derek Carr, Dennis Allen. It's week 17, and I just think there's a chance that Spencer Rattler is playing for a different coach, and it's like really awkward because neither Dennis Allen or Derek Carr are there. I'm just saying, like Derek Carr might not suit up because he doesn't want to play against his old team. Falcons and Vikings, Kirk Cousins returns home. Also have that's it. Ravens at Chiefs at 8, Steelers at Falcons. That's Arthur Smith revenge game plus Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins revenge from the 2011 Big Ten championship game. And then number 10 is a sneaky one. Jets at Niners, week 1, Monday Night Football. Not only do you get Aaron Rodgers revenge game against his Achilles tendon, revenge game against Monday Night Football, revenge game against week 1, 2023. You also get Aaron Rodgers against a team that passed on him first overall way back in the day. And I don't care how well you did without the Niners. He thought he was going to go from Cal to the 49ers, and he sat in that draft room for a long time. I think there's a little bit of sneaky spice in that game. Any thoughts on those other revenge games?
Yeah, I think the one that I was going to mention because I didn't know if you were going to put it on there was the Falcons and Steelers game in week 1.
That game.
I think that is hilarious because, and I'm doing the week 1 odds story for the site that should be up soon. And I wrote in there, wouldn't it just be hilarious if Pittsburgh somehow airs it out? It just after all this time, Arthur Smith's obviously the offensive coordinator now and was the head coach of the Falcons, and all they did was run the ball with Tyler Algier and not even Bijan Robinson. Could it be hilarious if all of a sudden this just turns into a air it out offense that lights up the Atlanta Falcons secondary? I just find that to be hilarious. I don't think that's likely, but boy, that would be funny.
Cordarrelle Patterson revenge game too, technically.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
That would absolutely be amazing. And you know what else? Brinson, did you mention Sean Payton returning to New Orleans? Broncos at Saints?
I didn't. I don't think I had that one in there somehow.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a Thursday night game in week 7. I feel like that's another one where Peyton is just going to embarrass the Saints to the point where, he left on his own accord. It wasn't like they fired him, but just one of those where, man, you guys have just fallen off the face of the earth since I left this team. Nobody knows what they're doing anymore. And you shouldn't have traded me away. You should have just let me sit in retirement. Thanks for nothing, or thanks for everything, I guess.
No, he wanted to come back. The one thing about that where I do agree, and I thought about it earlier in the week and then sort of forgot about it just because, the Saints, the Broncos lost draft picks because of that. They fired Pete Carmichael this offseason. That's like Sean Payton's guy. And I don't know, he wants to get revenge on Dennis Allen. I just think I agree with you. I probably should have included it. What's the bigger passive revenge here? Cousins returning to the Vikings. I mean, it's not like they were get lost, Kirk. He didn't want to sign with them. Or Sean Payton returning to the Saints.
I almost think that the fact that the Falcons drafted Michael Penix kind of takes the wind out of the sails of that. Like, oh, you were trying to bring in the young guy and, you wanted to get rid of me. Okay, well, the team that you just signed with did the same thing. So I don't know. It kind of takes the wind out of sails of that one for me.
Yeah, okay. I don't feel like Kirk Cousins wants revenge. He wants revenge on the Falcons. He wants to play for the Vikings so he can beat Atlanta. He's not worried about beating the Vikings. I think Sean Payton would love to beat the Saints, though, even though there wasn't a bitter exit or anything.
Yeah, I do like to avoid inter-division games. Otherwise, I do think, Aaron Jones coming back, he's going to try and kill them. And Saquon Barkley coming back to New York. The way Saquon has been treated this offseason is wild. He keeps me why are you guys dragging me? I didn't do anything wrong. I would have taken the Giants' money. You didn't want me. I left. Sorry for taking all the money from Philly. And he goes to a Flyers game or a Sixers game, and he's getting just killed for it. It's pretty funny.